Hey everybody. Today we're going to talk about crypto payments, the past, present, and future. My name is Will. I currently run head of payments over at Thesis. We build protocols, products on top of cryptocurrencies, and a couple generalized blockchain projects. And specifically, one of our products is Fold, and that's how you earn cryptocurrency in the real world. We are currently Bitcoin first, but we're looking pretty much currency agnostic and looking to expand and have some exciting plans for 2019. So today we're going to first look at what has happened in the last 10 years in terms of crypto payments, then look ahead about what we can look forward to in 2019 and then in the years to come. And some exciting use cases that we're seeing pop up, and then obviously the challenges that are also going to emerge. So before we get started, how many people in this room have actually purchased something with Bitcoin or any crypto? Okay, that's actually roughly matches to the numbers. About 30-40% of active users have actually done that. And how about with Lightning Network payments? Anybody? Yeah, that's about right too. Okay, so let's look at the first 10 years of crypto payments. So here is since 2015 till now, and this chart is not the price chart of Bitcoin, it's the payments volume, but it looks pretty much the same because that's kind of what we've been seeing as the market climbs. So do payments. As it falls, the payments do too. And being in the payment space, you feel that very much so. Once you can see this large tick up here when we got to 20K. That's also when we were dealing with about $50 fees. So when you're in the business of selling coffee with Bitcoin, $2 coffee, $50 fee becomes a little untenable. Business gets a little tough. And this is kind of what it looked like building up. This is coinmap.org. So this is the spread of merchants accepting cryptocurrency around the world. As you can see, we're about 14,000 merchants at the moment. At its height, it's about $400 million in monthly revenue or volume. And then at the lowest, and kind of what we're seeing now, is about 100 million. And for a merchant to accept a cryptocurrency, it takes them either shipping some code, some hardware. It's not necessarily an easy task. And at the beginning, we saw a couple companies, Expedia, Steam, begin to accept it. However, they quickly abandoned it. And that's partly due to the fact that there was nobody using it. There was no one buying it. So they couldn't actually justify the volume with the money, resources, and time to actually manage it. But there's also another kind of limiting factor in all this, and that's the maximum throughput on many of these cryptocurrencies. As you can see here, it lies far below what any user would imagine or expect from a Visa, PayPal, Discover. Bitcoin is much, much lower than that. And so that's kind of the debates that we've been having over the years. SegWit 2x, how the hell do we get more, increase the block size? This has really been what has defined a lot of the discussion in the last 10 years. And that technical limitation translates into a big user experience issue. Here you can see the different transaction speeds compared to Visa, PayPal. Bitcoin there at number 7 per second. And I think the thing to look at this is that even the specific cryptocurrencies that we've developed specifically to take on payments still pale in comparison to what we would expect a Visa, PayPal, or MasterCard to do. It doesn't nearly provide parity in experience. So no matter how much we're increasing the block sizes, all of this we're chasing, it still is not going to deliver the experience that we need to take this mainstream. And it shows in the numbers too. Bitcoin accounts for about 90% of all crypto payments still to this day. You can see others, Tron, some do their best to try to pump these numbers up. None of these are actually, totally perfect, but it gives a good relative sizing. You can see Dash coming there, number 3, which is perhaps the altcoin that has spent the most time laying the groundwork for cryptocurrency payments, especially in countries like Venezuela, developing countries. However, it still pales in comparison to what we see with Bitcoin. But kind of the problem is that we should never be comparing Bitcoin layer 1 to an actual payment, a payment protocol. At the moment, you see here, the transaction value in total coming through Bitcoin actually has surpassed PayPal, surpassed Discover Card. So we are transferring a lot of payments and transactions. However, layer 1 will not and cannot compete with the incumbent kind of traditional payment methods that we're seeing. And this is what starts to look at where we're going to go with payments 2.0. So this is how people use payments. Average consumer to business payment, $14. Peer-to-peer payment, around $100. And then, that says C2C. That should say B2B. That's $50K. And we see in the payment space a lot of these companies. We have BitPay here in Atlanta, who has really started on the C2B, C2C side and have moved up entirely, or at least a lot of their volume, to B2B. You have MetalPay, who has come in, who's really taking on the P2P market. And then Fold, which we have, is really on that lower end with consumer to business. And so who is actually using this? Who's spending this at all? Well, it's people like us. And here, crypto natives, crypto business people there who are transacting because they're either evangelists or because their business depends on it. Darknet transactions still are one of the most compelling use cases right now of crypto payments out there. Travelers, and then the unbanked, people who don't have access to bank accounts, young people, undocumented, and H-1B visa holders, lots of people who find value in crypto payments, regardless of the kind of UX challenges that we see. So here's the kind of report card of where we end up. Total crypto merchants in the world, around 14,000. And out of all merchants around the world, that's 0.01% penetration rate. On the actual consumer side, about 2.7 million crypto shoppers, we believe, are out there. And that's about 0.1% of all active consumers in the world. So 10 years later, we are scrapping for some quarters of percents here. And then overall, if you just want to look at volume, we expect yearly volume to be around $2 billion for crypto payments. I know BitPay itself here in Atlanta says that they take on about $1 billion of that. So I think all of these are a little relative, but it gives us a good understanding of kind of where we are and how much farther we have to go. So where does that leave us now? Where do we go next? Well, there's a couple things we have to overcome. So besides the people that find immediate value in crypto payments, so that is, again, people who do that to evangelize crypto, travelers, the unbanked, to get it to the mainstream, we're going to have to overcome all of these things. Number one, poor UX, transaction speeds, time to set up wallets, things like that. There's no incentives right now, so there's a big loss aversion calculus that we need to change. So if I wanted to spend $5 on a coffee, and I think the next day that same $5 might go up to $20, I'm kind of less willing to actually part with that cash. And there's also this additional transaction model that we come against. So if I'm going into a store buying something and I use my credit card, the merchant takes the fee and my credit card company gives me a reward back. And that's just kind of what we consider standard today. But when you use a Bitcoin transaction, I, the consumer, pay the fee, and there's certainly no one there to give me a reward after that. So the economics don't even quite make sense. Volatility we covered, and then the other one that a lot of payment companies don't actually like to talk about is the complications with taxes and regulations surrounding using crypto for regular payments. Some of these you will be paying taxes on capital gains on a $5 cup of coffee that you buy. So that's something that we don't really want. We will have to certainly overcome going forward. But there are some very, very bright spots here. Merchants increased 15% over the last year. Users doubled, so active users with cryptocurrency doubled last year, regardless of the bear market. and darknet transactions doubled as well. So this is a good bellwether because people using darknet transactions, crypto for that, they're less concerned about the price and the volatility. They're using it for the utility that it affords them. And then, of course, Lightning has come online, and that also has increased about 200% in the last year. So we'll be talking quite a bit about Lightning. But what we really see are two things coming together, is that there's a massive latent buying power that has developed with users 2xing, with more incumbents onboarding more and more cryptocurrency users, and then massive tech and user experience improvements that we're going to kind of go over some of these. And combined, we believe this is kind of what is going to be the foundation in which crypto payments 2.0 goes forward. All right, so there's going to be a couple things that we're going to define crypto payments by. It's going to be easy to use. Advances in Lightning Network, wallets, and user experience have about 10x from what we have been used to. They're going to be highly incentivized. People are coming in to provide rewards, cash back, and of course, a different type of incentive. The thesis of Bitcoin as soundness and censorship resistant money is beginning to materialize in developing and inflationary countries. And then thirdly, it's widely accepted. So retail adoption, incumbent payment rails, and others who are going to increase the areas and places that we can actually use this. So for me, I am most excited in terms of payments about Lightning Network here in 2019. It is certainly an experimental technology, but I think right about now, it is we can start to think of this as an actual production-ready environment, because we are seeing production-ready services online right now. We're going to go through a couple of these in a little bit. Right now, there's about 2 million in capacity on the Lightning Network, around 3,000 nodes, 25,000 channels, but there are a few, I guess you could call them whales of the Lightning Network that have most of that capacity, but for the most part, the average node has under $5 in it. So this is a good for people who are building new services products to look at. Good go-to-markets is starting with very small microtransactions, because there's a good glut of people there who have existing channel capacity to do that. Some of the user experience benefits of Lightning Network. Number one, the invoice model. There is no more data entry, no more you have to say the address, the amount, all of it is covered in the invoice, which makes the user experience very, very simple. And there's a lot of great things designers are doing right now to make that kind of as undercover as possible. Transactions are instantaneous, far faster than any kind of thing we'd see even from a Visa network. Increased privacy, also known as Bitcoin's darknet, and then low fees. We're seeing about 1 Satoshi fee right now. And so when we look at the kind of loss aversion calculation of crypto payments 1.0, of the fees are more, I have to wait 10 minutes, possibly come back. If I even try to buy my coffee with Bitcoin, I'm going to be holding up the line for 10 minutes. Things like that we don't have to worry about anymore. And then on the payment side, the invoice model has seriously dropped at least our customer support requests coming in there. So things like this are very encouraging. Wallets are going to play a massive part of this. Casa, you can see here, this is Casa's new browser extension that they just released at the top. Allows you to navigate anywhere on the web and have Lightning payments right at your fingertips there. And things like this that have great user experience and at the point of sale are going to be massive for adoption and at least increasing volume. If you're an Android user, recommend you checking out Eclair Wallet. Blue Wallet and Zap are both iOS that I could recommend. Jewel, very similar to Casa's, and then Edge I think are all good places to start in terms of wallets. So how are we going to make this more incentivized? Well, number one, we're seeing tons of rewards, programs and models pop up. With Fold, we're giving cash back on every single purchase you make, 2 to 20%. Metal Pay gives peer-to-peer payment cash back. and then Lolly, which is a very similar browser extension, which will give you crypto back with almost any kind of transactions you're making around the web. So this is even a good on-ramp for people that do not have cryptocurrencies, that they can spend fiat in the real world, but gain cryptocurrency as cash back, and then start to become onboarded into an actual crypto user. The fee issue, 0 fees on Lightning, 1 Satoshi. This is now we won't have to deal with, even when the network becomes congested, we're not going to deal with $50 fees on a $2 coffee. And then other interesting plays. We have crypto credit cards that are coming out. This is BlockFi is going to be releasing that. It's going to be interesting to see what they're doing. MakerDAO also has some interesting plays in this. Privacy. I think right now you can see the Monero, the Zcash use cases of darknet transactions. It'll be interesting to see if some of that comes over to the Lightning Network, because essentially the Lightning Network is Bitcoin's darknet. And then Grin, other cryptocurrencies that are popping up. So this is one that we're particularly excited about. Has an inflationary schedule, allows you to model the transaction fees on either side, so you can get really creative in that way. Near instant payments, and a very good team that has a pretty fair launch schedule too. So that's also something good. And the other incentive. So this is a map of the world, and this is a recent study done by Matt Alberg, and this is looking at on a per user base transactions across the world. So of course, if you looked at which country is using Bitcoin and cryptocurrency most, it's going to be the developing or the developed world, especially the United States, just because the transaction volumes are so much higher. But when we look at this on a per user operating basis, we start to see something that's really interesting, that Bitcoin is actually working as intended in developing and hyperinflationary countries as a store of value and a medium exchange. And as the infrastructure in those areas starts to build out, I think we're going to see even a faster acceleration here. In the developing world, they're facing the same challenges we are here, that merchants simply don't accept cryptocurrency, but that's rapidly changing. And this is a very good look, and I think one of the first kind of database looks at how Bitcoin is actually performing in countries like Venezuela, which up until this point has all been different stories and not a complete picture that we've seen, but I think this is one of the best studies been done so far. All right, so emerging use cases. So what opens up with crypto payments 2.0? What is different? Well, Lightning Network, for one, opens up entirely new use cases, not just for cryptocurrency, but for payments in general, with the idea of micropayments, that you can send a single Satoshi for less than a Satoshi and instantaneously. That level and granularity of payments is something that we haven't really seen possible so far, either in cryptocurrency or in payments in general. So here are some of the more exciting use cases. I think obviously gaming is going to be a big one. And it looks like some of the sources are getting cut off at the bottom, so I will make sure to share those out after. But this is Penguin Shooter, RPG game based on Lightning payments that unlocks things within the game. And as we looked at earlier, the average channel holds less than $5 in it. And so in terms of adoption and on-ramping people into Lightning, these types of use cases are, I think, going to be pretty powerful going into 2019. Really fun games that demonstrate the micropayments, the instantaneous aspect of Lightning, and how easy it is. We're seeing kids in Minecraft create their own Lightning payment QR codes to set up their own businesses within the game. So I think what we're seeing here is a realization of what cryptocurrency can allow. No intermediates, and a person able to spin up a business entirely or on their own and accept and transfer value between people without any intermediaries. Another one here is data streaming. So this is kind of, you can see the future of AWS or or other data streaming services, where this is Blockstream here, where you can actually pay for bandwidth on their network via Lightning Network. So you can send messages from their satellites via Lightning Network payments. And so this is kind of a proto version of how might cloud computing services might be charged for in the future, mobility, machine-to-machine payments, things like that. Here's microservices. So this is Alex Bosworth. He's on the L&D team, perhaps one of the most interesting people in Lightning Network community. He has developed here basically create a burner email inbox immediately and spin that up with Lightning payments. Here's one with Wi-Fi access. So most Wi-Fi is, there's about 70% downtime on the average person's Wi-Fi network on their home. And so what about the idea of opening that up to the public to be able to pay you to have access to your Wi-Fi hotspot for periods of time? So this is another good example of when you bring together micropayments with a payment method that can be spun up by anyone for any means in a global way. So this is going to be good for people sharing their own Wi-Fi access, public hotspots. It's going to be interesting where people take this one. Here's one of the first use cases that really caught my mind was microtransactions for content. So this is kind of the antidote to the advertising-based content that we see that is mostly supporting news today. Here is one where you can actually pay a few Satoshis to get access to given content. We're seeing also this start to play in with advertising. So either watch this ad and then we'll let you see the video, or pay us a couple Satoshis and we'll let you through. So a good model for publishers and content makers going forward in the future. At Fold, this is actually one of the first looks at what we're doing here. This week, we're going to be releasing nationwide pizza delivery service over Lightning Network. So this will be plugged into about 13,000 locations. And so you'll get about 20 minutes of pizza to your house, paying with Lightning Network. Should be fun. If you want to check that out, you can follow us at ln_pizza, and we'll keep you up to date. So some of these things are a lot of fun, all these use cases, Lightning Network, new wallets, things like that. But at the end of the day, all of these are brand new design spaces to design for, and we are just getting started. So if we thought we were having issues designing for layer 1 Bitcoin transactions, we have plenty more challenges to solve now. And kind of the issue is that we're at this is the app infrastructure cycle here. We're kind of right at the beginning of creating a new infrastructure stack for Lightning and how that specifically relates to the application layer. And so a lot of these use cases that we just looked at are applications that are being built atop very early infrastructure that those applications themselves have to add more infrastructure elements that will then become the basis for the next wave of payments going forward. And so here are the few of the problems. So on usability, we're starting over. Again, completely new design spaces. Now, Lightning payments, you get to not only have a Bitcoin wallet, but you also need to have a Lightning wallet now. We already had enough trouble setting people up with Bitcoin wallets, and so we get to go do it again. There are people doing it very well. I think Casa is one of the leaders doing this, where it essentially feels like you are setting up one wallet, but you end up setting up two at once. It was a good experience there. Transaction models are completely different. Grin, Lightning Network, the way transactions work are completely different, which will take a ton of education and a lot of design experimentation to see what's the best way to go about doing this. And there are, again, the other problems that we've continued to sweep under the rug: taxes, regulations, things like that. I personally don't know of anyone who is taking on some of these. If any of you know, I'd love to hear after. But those are ones that maybe aren't the most flattering ones to take on, but users are going to be facing that come April. There's going to be other problems coming up in just managing a Lightning Network node or channel management. I think on the node management side, you look at Pierre Rochard's node launcher, which essentially allows anyone to spin up a Lightning Network node within 30 minutes. It took me very quickly. And then Casa Node as well, which is shaping up to be an entirely new platform from which Lightning Network applications may be built atop, kind of like you'd maybe imagine Apple's App Store, but something for the Lightning Network, I think is something that would be interesting to see. On channel management, so Lightning Network, there's the idea you have to create channels between people. For most users, it's going to be far too complicated. You have to make sure you're not diluting yourself by creating too many. And so there's been a suite of tooling and services that have come in to help people. So Bitrefill just launched the Thor, and that basically allows anyone to get a channel opened on their behalf and liquidity into it. So you don't really have to do anything. It is a service you need to pay for. And there's a couple free ones called Lightning to Me and singles.shock.network, which turns it into a Tinder-like channel management thing. It's strange, but it works. Besides usability, besides managing nodes and channels under the hood, we still have distribution problems. However, I think 2019 is going to change this quite a bit. The main use case for Bitcoin and crypto previously has been speculative. I need to buy crypto so that I can hodl it or make enough money to get that Lambo. However, now use cases are popping up where Bitcoin is going to be earned, won, gifted, paid for, and as we see these new use cases start to roll out, we're going to see a much more balanced ecosystem, which a lot more circular movement of funds as opposed to one way or simply hodled use cases. Exchanges will still play a major part in that. Some will get better, some will get worse. But other ones that are kind of interesting, ATMs, vouchers, the Bitcoin vouchers that are starting to appear here provide a very interesting route to mainstream adoption. And there was a gentleman outside who was selling handmade cards where you could buy for your family member and send as a birthday gift, and it would be, a couple Satoshis or something that you could send. I thought that was kind of interesting. Local Bitcoins is going to still be leading this. Local Bitcoins is on the forefront of bringing cryptocurrency to the developing world. And then, of course, access in corner stores, things like that. I think all of these we're starting to see more options and more opportunity for more people to get cryptocurrency, and that's only going to increase that kind of buying power that payments has the ability to kind of take hold of. On-ramps ahead. So who is going to be doing this stuff? What are the pressures and forces here? So I think crypto native products, so that's us in this room who are making things, builders here, new use cases. Some of those use cases that I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of it's going to come from that. However, I think the two largest sources of growth in the space, honestly, will be incumbent entrants. So this is when Cash App joins. This is when Square gets in the picture. Facebook launching a stable coin. Whether we like it or not, these things are going to happen, and they reach billions of people. And so it's going to be really interesting when they make their first play. I'm not sure if many of you saw, but last week, I believe Jack Dorsey participated in the Lightning Network torch handoff and proceeded to spend 24 hours pontificating about the benefits of Bitcoin specifically and its use case in the world. So I think those are cracks that are starting to show where incumbents are ready to start to kind of step out and either express their support for it. Distressed economies, we're going to continue to see this. Venezuela, Russia, Argentina, Turkey, the list goes on, of economies where for the very first time a decentralized, censorship-resistant currency is another option for the people in those countries. And again, I encourage you to go read that article. It's one of the most compelling portraits of that what we're working on is actually working as intended. And so I think between these three, we're going to see a lot of interesting things come out of 2019. But again, with all these new use cases, the challenges only continue. So the kind of word of the day is continue to build, continue to make good stuff. And thank you very much. That's Crypto Payments 2.0.